Hello and welcome back to the Cluttered Workbench. My name is Dave. In today's video, I'm going to talk about restoring your soldering iron bit or tip, however you want to call it. This came to my attention a couple days ago. I was browsing around on YouTube looking at other people's point of view on how to maintain your soldering iron. And I saw a couple on there that just made my skin crawl. The soldering iron tip, like this one, this is a Heiko, a genuine. It's a copper core, and then it's plated with iron on the main tip part here. And also they may put a tin plating to make it nice and shiny and look good. This one I've used for probably about 6 months, and you'll notice there's solder on it because when I'm done at the end of the day, I coat it with solder and then turn the iron off, and it protects the tip from oxidation. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen, and it tends to react with other metals, and that's how you get rust and oxidation, corrosion. But some folks have actually taken this tip, put it in an electric drill, use sandpaper while the drill's spinning, and take it all the way down to the bare copper. Well, that's a good way to destroy that tip. Now, this Heiko one runs about $8. And if you take care of it, it'll last you a couple of years, maybe even longer. I've also seen other people taking a file, this is a jeweler's file, and scraping all the crud off of it. And that's not good either, because you're going all the way down to the bare copper. And then if you don't properly keep it tinned, the copper is going to oxidize, and you're not going to get a good thermal transfer, and you're going to bring contamination into your solder joints, and you don't want any kind of contamination on it. What I have done is I've kind of wrecked intentionally this soldering iron tip on my Heiko. This is a cheap Chinese tip, so doesn't really matter, and you can see it's oxidized, and it's got a little bit of rust on it from the oxidation. And what I'm going to do is show you how to properly bring this one back to life. So I'm going to turn the soldering iron on, and it's going to take about 30 seconds to get up to temperature. A while back, somebody gave me a gift card for Christmas, and I bought one of these little Weller kits. This is brass. It's basically shavings. It's almost like a pot scrubber, but it's brass, which is softer than the iron, and it also is coated with flux. Flux is a good thing. And then it came with some rosin paste flux, and all you want to use in electronics is a rosin flux. And it also came with a little tip tinner, tip refresher, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to run these through and see if we can bring this tip back to life. First thing I'm going to do is open up this paste flux, and let me get some solder here. This is a 60-40 lead or tin lead solder, commonly used. And let's see if the tip, oops, cables are in the way, sorry about that. Let's see if it takes any solder. It's actually still sticking to it, so it's not too bad. And we'll just clean it. Come on, cable, get out of the way. Just clean it in this brass. It's a tip cleaner. I've started using this over the wet sponge because it doesn't thermally shock the tip. And yeah, it's actually looking quite good. And you're supposed to poke it into this tip cleaner and give it a little twist, the edges of the copper or the brass will scrape the crap off the tip, like burnt flux. And then we can also take it and dip it in some flux. Flux cleans the oxidation off the tip. And then we can put it back in the cleaner. Put some more solder on it. Clean it off again. Put some more flux on it. You can do this as many times as you want, but this is the best way to clean your tip, or your bit, however you want to pronounce it. And you have a very nice, come on, focus. And then I'll run it off my wet sponge. And you can see that's back in pretty good shape, and it seems to take the solder very well. Trying to do this under the camera is a little bit difficult. See how it just sticks to it? That smoke is the flux, it's not lead. Lead melts at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Maybe a little higher, I think it's like 450. No, excuse me, 600 and something degrees is pure lead. But when this tin lead alloy, it melts at about 361 degrees Fahrenheit. And the fumes coming off is just the flux. It's not lead. Lead boils at like almost 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So just don't breathe the stuff in, because the rosin core flux does contain stuff like hydrochloric acid in it, and it's not good to breathe it. I have a ceiling fan going over my head, so it keeps the fumes out of my way. So we'll put that back in, like so. These little tip tinners are handy if it's starting to get a little crappy, but if you want to just refresh the tip real quick, you just put it in there. It contains like ammonia and some solder. I think it's actually sal ammoniac, which is solid ammonia. And it makes the tip nice and shiny. Put it in there. Sorry for the camera jiggling. And again, you have a really nice clean tip ready to go for the next. Now what I do at the end of the day, or if I'm putting my soldering iron in the holder for more than a few minutes, is I coat it nice with a huge blob of solder all up on the tip. Put it back in the holder and turn the iron off. And it's done for the day. And the tip will look like, oh, that's a new one. Oops, my bad. And the tip will look like this with a nice coating of solder, which will protect it until I use it again. And then when I fire it up, the first thing I'll do is wipe it off, put a fresh coat of solder on it, and begin soldering my leads. Well, hopefully this helps a little bit. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.